Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening in or watching from. My name is Justin Skizik. I am the founder of Crown and Key and the host of the Rise Up podcast. And I'm here with Mr. Meadows. He is the co-founder of David Douglas Diamonds and Jewelry. They are a multi-generational store, jewelry store based out of Marietta, Georgia, just to the northwest of Atlanta. So, Doug, welcome. Welcome to the
Thank
Rise Up
you.
podcast.
Well, thank you, Justin.
Okay. I always love just kind of giving the listeners the lay of the land here so everyone get to know who you are a bit. So
Okay.
tell me a little bit, like in your own words, kind of your version of how you and your brother started the jewelry company. You know, where like give me the lay of the land of what's your community like, what do you have a particular role as, in the jewelry store? Just kind of give everyone the lay of the land here. That's where I
Okay.
want to start. That's okay.
All right. I'll try to not get too crazy with it, but back in 1926, my grandfather actually started us in the jewelry industry up in Detroit. He did he had a trade shop. It's a fancy word for wholesale repair. A lot of the retail jewelry stores, they didn't have a jeweler on premise, or some of the manufacturers needed to outsource some diamond setting or whatever. They would send it to somebody like my grandfather, and they would size the ring, set the diamonds out of the chain, and then send it back to the retail store. And so next year, actually, we'll be celebrating 100 years of being a family of jewelers. And
Awesome.
out of that, I have a couple of cousins up in Detroit area still. I have a cousin down in Florida. Me and my brother. I have a brother up in Michigan. We're all still doing a little bit of jewelry work. I think me and my brother are probably the most aggressive at it. And so my dad and uncle worked in my grandfather's shop, and in the 60s, or the late 50s, early 60s, they took over their dad's business. And then me and my brother apprenticed in the 70s. I got tired of the cold and snow in the 80s and had an opportunity to come to Atlanta. And so I came down here with hopes and dreams of doing a lot of cool things. I really had a crazy misconception of my faith. I'm a Christian, and I figured, I was 23 years old. I'm in business. God's going to truly bless me, bless my socks off, and I'm just going to be rolling in the dough. And I had a rude awakening.
Famous
couple
last
years,
words, right?
That's right. A couple years into it, me and my ex-partner, we successfully ran the company into bankruptcy. And so in 1985, I talked my brother Dave into moving on down from Michigan. And so we started a new chapter in the jewelry industry here in Atlanta. I call myself a third generation jeweler, but a first generation retailer. And so in 85, me and my brother, we took our first names, Dave and Doug, and we put them together and created the David Douglas Diamonds. My mom and dad had 4 boys, Don, Dan, Dave, and Doug. And our middle names all start with the letter G, so we all have the same initials.
Wow.
And I was the youngest of the group, and so I got the hand-me-down sweater with the monogram on there.
And also in the title of the name, you're second too.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn the knife on that one. Sorry about that.
No. I always liked the combination. David was just a very strong first name. Douglas is commonly used for a last name, so it just went together really well.
Yeah, it does. We
were together for many years. Probably about 20 years ago, my brother had the wisdom and foresight to say, at the time we actually had 2 locations. We had one in Woodstock and one in Marietta. I mean, when me and my brother were together, we did all kinds of crazy stuff, from manufacturing to trade shop work to retail jewelry. We opened up multiple stores. We bought a pawn shop. We bought a car wash. Me and my brother were entrepreneurs when we were kids. We started out with paper routes to shoveling horse manure, literally, to one summer he came up with this idea to rototill gardens. He put an ad in the paper. I was his grunt labor, so he'd put the ad in the paper. We'd get these.
You do all the work?
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
not fair. How does that work out?
he did a lot of work,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but he would put an ad in the paper, that he would come rototill your garden. And so on a Saturday, he would set up appointments on Saturdays. We would go to the rental place Saturday morning and go rent the rototiller, and then go rototill all day, take the rototiller back. And we did that for quite a few weeks, and then we actually made enough money to go buy our own rototiller, and did that all summer long. Well, really, you can only do that in the springtime, but so we just did a variety of things, and so it was just normal for us to find other opportunities. But later on, my brother, once we had the two stores going, my brother had the foresight to say, it was never fun dealing with cousins and uncles. Let's not put our kids through this, because we just started having our kids starting to be, they were teenagers, starting to be a part of the
Mhm.
company, working. And we didn't know what their future held, or what they even, knew if they wanted to know what they wanted to do, But so at that time, he ended up keeping the Woodstock location, allowed me to keep the Marietta location. He allowed me to keep the name. He renamed his store after our grandfather. Our grandfather's name was Arthur Meadows, and so he called it Art Jewelers. And so him and his daughter and son-in-law have that store over in Woodstock still. And now me and my son have this store here in Marietta. I was just so thankful. It was never a battle or a fight. We still love each other. We still have a lot of synergy together. We still do stuff together. We don't
That's
avoid
awesome.
each other at the Thanksgiving gathering, those types of things. So, um, but, but, currently I have my son coming up in the business, and is majority stockholder owner now on the company.
Mhm.
And I'm just here to continue to be the visionary of the company, and just kind of mentor and coach him along. And I'm just still having too much fun. I mean, I have
Yeah.
no desire to run out. There's just too many cool things going on. I've enjoyed traveling more. I've had opportunities to go to India. India is where, within our industry, probably 90 to 95% of the world's diamonds are all cut there now. Used to be
Mhm.
Antwerp was the diamond cutting capital of the world, and now it's a little town in India called Surat, or Surat, depending on how you pronounce it. And it's just, it's a different culture. It's a different experience when you go there, and it's very eye opening to see the industry from a totally different perspective. Gives you a really interesting appreciation for it all. The other thing is, currently lab grown diamonds are the rage of the diamonds in the world today. And, the majority of them are actually grown in Surat, India. The manufacturing factories are there. So I've had the opportunity to go to many factories over there, and see the process, and learn about it. Uh, Since their lab grown is diamond, it still needs to be cut by a diamond cutter. And so whether they're cutting natural or lab, they still need the same equipment.
Right. Right. Okay.
I don't know, from, a very high level, that's kind of, a story of 45 years for me.
Yeah, I know. I know when I asked that question, you're like, okay, how do I condense this down into like a few minutes? I totally understand the ramifications of the question.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually it's you bring up a really interesting point, and I've had a couple other conversations with some other people about this too. And I just want to point blank ask you, because you mentioned it. Is
Hmm.
how does your faith play into, how your family dynamics with, between your brother and running a business, and now, you know, so we'll call it interfamily. So between families, father, son, whatever that looks, as well as within the community.
Yeah. Um, well, it drives everything I do. I mean, that was really one of the main reasons me and my brother got together, was to put him into ministry. He had a really heart for doing a camp ministry, and so, my dream was that the company could support him and support that camp. That truly that never came to the fruition. But the words that Jesus spoke and the words in the Bible have so many principles and teachings in it, and that we've taken a lot of those and applied them to our business. We have a what's called a strategic intent, and that is just to be a profitable business, but also to honor and bless all who God brings our way. And so we use that as a filter, when we're trying to decide whether to do something, we just run it through that filter, and that helps us to make a lot of decisions. Recently I was able to get a 501c3 and start a nonprofit. And so here in the U.S., my nonprofit is NTB International, and the NTB basically stands for No Turning Back. When me and my brother, when we would get into business or try to do something, it was like, we're going to find a way to make this work. Uh, and so that's always kind of been my motto. And I've always been, I've traveled to a variety of different places. I've been to Fiji, I've been to Africa, and to Europe, I've been to India. And it's like everywhere I go, I just see business opportunities. And not only business opportunities, but also business education. And I have a real heart for the orphans, to be able to educate them, to teach them how to be entrepreneurs. And so we've kind of a long story short, we have built we're in the process of building a vocational school over in Uganda currently. And
Nice.
it has a lot of, obviously faith-based principles behind
Mhm.
it. Sometimes it hurts to just help people. When you give them just money, it doesn't solve the problem. They need an education. They need to know how to make money and how to do it right, to have the right integrity and culture to do that. Sadly, even here in the US, I mean, we don't teach ethics when it comes to business. I mean, it's just we teach how to make
You
money,
don't. Yeah, that's true.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it's at the expense of others. But I don't know. It's been a very exciting chapter of my life to go there and do these educational things and teach people business. I mean, we went down there one time probably 8 years ago now, and I did a jewelry making class with a room full of women, business minded women. I left there, and 6 months later, I left them some tools. 6 months later, they found like 6 or 7 girls from the slums, put them together, and they are now making copper jewelry and manufacturing it and selling it literally around the world.
Wow.
We've
Wow.
we've improved it over the years by adding gold plating to it to give it a little bit of a higher class. But they sell it at a lot of the gift shops throughout Africa, the safari shops. They sell it up in Europe. They sell it in Australia. We sell it here in the U.S., and it's very well received, especially when you can share the story about it. One of my trips to South Zambia, I went to Victoria Falls, took my daughter there. She wanted to go on a safari, so I took her on a safari. And our driver, we just connected with. That he had to take us from about an hour trip to get us to where the safari was at. And in that hour, going and coming back, we just, had a great conversation. And this was just pre-COVID. I exchanged WhatsApp numbers with him and got back to the U.S. And then COVID hit. And I don't know, I just had a real heart for the guys. Like, man, this guy's out of work.
Mm.
What he did was based off of tourism. There is no tourism. And so I just started reaching out to him just to see what we could do to help him get through this challenging time. And then on the other side of COVID, it took quite a while for tourism to kind of get back up and going. And so we explored different options. And I finally, he said, if I could get me a car, I could be a taxi driver or I could have a taxi business. I said, okay. So we helped him get a car. And so now now I'm coaching him on how to run that business and make it profitable, make sure it is profitable. So this next year, we want to expand it, get him a second vehicle so that he can then hire a driver and slowly build his own taxi business with multiple drivers and stuff. We just started a chicken business up in Lusaka, Zambia. A pastor, he just needed a little bit extra income to supplement that, so we helped him get all his chickens going and things. So I don't know. It's just I'm just having too much fun.
Well, I mean, it's I think it's what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the you're at a stage of your business career where you have that ability to do that, to be able
Hmm.
to help people, and it's not always like, I think as I can imagine some people could relate to this, that if, you are a very driven entrepreneur and you have your hands on a lot of things, you're doing a lot of things to drive business and to grow profits and all that, sometimes you can lose sight of what's really important in this world,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is to serve one another and to help one another, because that's what
Yeah.
Christ calls us to do. So,
Yeah.
people watchers are gonna have different faith beliefs, and that's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
I respect that. But I come from a Christian background as well. So,
Hmm.
I understand what you mean. And, I think regardless of faith beliefs, we could always be better at filling the need for somebody who needs it. Right. And and sometimes it's a random conversation in a car to driving back from one place to the next. My wife gives me a hard time all the time because I'll talk to a driver, I'll talk to anybody in the car. She's like, "Leave them alone. They don't want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, they do."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit, kind of getting to just I'm curious about your daily routine. Like, what does an
Hmm.
average day look like for you these days?
Well, one of the things that changed my life, along with Christ, is I hired me a virtual assistant in the Philippines,
Sweet.
and so I usually start my day here at the store at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we do a Zoom meeting for an hour, hour and a half, and we just go over things. And I'll give her a gazillion things to do. She works for me 40 hours a week, and she gets so much done for me. And what she doesn't know, I invest back into her and get her educated to go figure it out. Because I'm an Excel junkie, and I told her, I said, I want you better than me at Excel. And so you're going to take, 30 minutes of your day and do some form of training on Excel to continue to
Okay.
learn it. And
Yeah.
so we do that. And then, every day of the week has usually a different type of a meeting in the morning. Tuesday mornings, every other week we meet with a business coach. And then the other, the off weeks, I do coaching with my son.
Cool.
And then Tuesday at 9, we have a marketing meeting with my son's wife, helps us with all the marketing to put all that together. And so we'll go over all the different events or programs or whatever we got going on that we're trying to do. Then, um, twice every 2 weeks on a Tuesday, we use a coaching service for our inventory. It's called the Buyers Intelligence Group, or BIG, or Balance to Buy. They don't know who they are, so they have many names. It's an amazing software. It kind of bolts on to our POS system, and it just helps us to really manage inventory so that we don't become a museum.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to keep
Not
it fresh and
overbuying,
relevant,
underbuying, those kind of things. Okay. Okay.
and helps us also to, make sure that we're getting in things that have sold. We call them fast sellers or fast sellers. Our customers voted with their dollars. We need to get that back in so that somebody else has the opportunity to buy it. And but then and then it's kind of wide open in the afternoon. I usually run home. I live literally a mile from my home, and me and my wife have kind of changed our diet in the sense of we have our biggest meal or our main meal at lunchtime now at like 1:30, and then we don't have dinner. And so it's almost like, what do they call it? Intermittent fasting, to where I have
Yeah.
kind of a
Intermittent
late
fasting.
breakfast
Yeah.
and an early dinner, and then I'm done. And so I enjoy doing that. And then, but my day is working on visionary type things. Where do we want to see the company in, a year or 5 years, investigating new opportunities or new technologies. Or, you know, right now I'm with the way gold's been going, I'm revisiting my gold buying sheet. We have a spreadsheet to where the staff can kind of plug in different pieces of information for the customers. And I'm just trying to streamline that process for the staff. Right now, it's a little bit, I've made it too complicated over the years. And so I'm just revisiting that and trying to redesign it so that it's a lot easier for them to input the data on it and different things. But, and then just watching the money, making sure we're staying profitable.
Doing all right. Good.
Going through all that, analyzing sales or analyzing a product line, interviewing new potential product lines that we might want to take in. There's a lot of, if somebody wants to get in our showcase, there's a lot of criteria to it.
Yeah.
And they have to kind of go through me first. And then once I approve it, then my staff has to approve it, because it doesn't matter what
They're
I
the ones
like.
who's selling it.
They're the ones selling it, not
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
but I don't want them to get excited about something and then them not be able to do all the things I need on the back end.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for a partnership with my vendor. I don't want it just to be a business transaction. I want to work with them. We do a lot of community involvement. I lost my mom to cancer 35 years ago or so. And about 22 years ago, I decided I wanted to put together a writing contest in our local elementary school to teach the kids on how to honor their mom. And so we came up with, actually, I had some lady was doing an article on it, and I was telling her about that, and I think she's the one that came up with Dazzling Diamonds for Mom. So we went
Sounds
with it.
great.
And yeah, I know.
It rings.
And I know. And so every year, right after Valentine's Day, we send out the invitation to the schools, and we ask the kids to write and tell us why their mom deserves a diamond. And so this is offered to kindergartners through 5th grade. And
well, I bet you get some really cute notes.
Oh my goodness! This past year we had 8,700 letters from all the kids. It comes. Wow. We invite about 27 schools in our area, and so within that 27 schools, there's 4 schools that are what we call Title I. A Title I is, mainly
lower income.
Yeah, lower income. They get a free lunch, a free breakfast, whatever. And so those schools, we rotate through that list, and those actually get, of all the winners of the classes, they'll get a free gemstone pendant. Anyways, we give away 6 diamonds to the winners, 1 for each grade level. But then every classroom that participates, they get a Best of Class award. Because when I was a kid and you enter a contest, you always wondered, does anybody ever win these things? So I wanted to make sure that the kids saw that somebody won something. And so, somebody in their classroom, whether it's them or somebody else, they see won a free gemstone. And so it's a lot of fun. And then we jumped up into high school, and for homecoming, we decided that the homecoming queen deserved the diamond pendant. But I didn't want to have to figure out what that looked like. And so we have a drawing contest in the school's art department. And we'll get about, 60, 70 entries from all the kids. And they design this pendant that we would then create and give to the homecoming queen on homecoming night and stuff.
Oh.
And then we give the one that designed it the option to either, if they really liked it and they want us to make it for them too, we'll make it for them also. Or, we'll work with them on a different design or give them a credit to get something here in the store. But, we're always looking for ways to be involved in the community somehow. Mm-hmm. Next year, with it being our 100 years celebration, currently we're I'm working with my marketing to see what can we do to kind of throughout the year do 100 acts of kindness and
Mm,
focus in on like the fire department, the police department, the teachers, my vendors, the staff. We don't have it all nailed out just yet. I was actually talking to a firefighter this morning about what could we do to really bless these guys and stuff. So he was giving me some really good ideas, and he's got the contacts to help me make sure I can get to the right people.
nice, nice. I love the ingenuity, like, just looking to, bridge, what you do as a business, but also
Hmm.
serving the community and making that connection that it
Yeah,
shows that you're, outward focused and that your heart's big for the community and you want to be able to
right.
support kids through people that are doing good in this world. I
Yeah,
think we need to know who's doing good in this world. We hear all the bad stuff every day, and we're not going to get into
right, right.
politics and all that. We're not going to go there. But the point is, or the news or any of that. But I think you can get where I'm getting at is we need more goodness in this
Hmm.
world, and so I applaud you guys for taking those initiatives and looking for ways to continue to serve your community and to I imagine those some of those little kid notes are just adorable. So I've had the oh, man. Yeah. My mom is the best.
Well, I mean, it's all over the place from really sad stuff, heartbreaking things. I mean, my mother-in-law used to be a judge for us, and she's like, I can't. This is too emotional. I can't do this anymore.
Well, I appreciate that. So you mentioned just a little bit ago, like some of the technologies and things that you are exploring,
Hmm.
to help you in your business. What are you looking at? What are things that are, keeping your eye these days?
Well, currently my POS system is kind of antiquated. The company is the leading POS software within our industry, but they haven't come out of the 80s yet. So it's a relatively robust software. I mean, it's not broken, it works, but it's just clunky. And so, trying to take some time to explore some of those types of things and look at what is available. A lot of the cloud based type stuff is very new and a little bit too soon to kind of jump on.
Hmm.
I'm looking at RFID inventory tags so that we can facilitate taking an inventory a little bit easier and faster and more frequently. What else is there? We do a lot of CAD designing here. So my son does all the CAD designing. We have a 3D printer, and the 3D printing technology is constantly changing. And just trying to keep an eye on that of what is new and abreast. With the advent of lab-grown diamonds, they're very challenging to test. We've bought some testers in the past, and just keeping an eye on that technology improves.
Yeah.
The technology for these testers get better and less expensive, and just trying to decide when is it time to upgrade the equipment that we have. We have with AI coming on board the photography work that we do. We use a system called Gem Lightbox. That's all a combination of a really nice camera, Lightbox, and then some AI to generate both descriptions and/or enhancements on it. Everything just changes so quickly to where
Yeah.
you buy something 2 years ago and then it's outdated in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just spent some time looking at my safe and deciding I needed to update my safe into they have different security levels on them and update that so that my insurance rates could go down just a little bit and I can have a little bit better peace of mind, keeping an eye on technology for security. I mean, one of the cool ones that is pretty heavy over in Europe right now, they have the ability to fill a full store full of fog within like 2 minutes. And
Fog?
a fog. Yeah. So,
Huh.
for example, if you had, currently, I don't know if you've seen on the news some of these what we call smash and grabs going on in the
Yeah.
jewelry industry, but there are literally 20 guys are raiding in a store with sledgehammers and
Just hitting
backpacks and
everything. Yeah.
and just smashing everything. They're in and out in 4 or 5 minutes. And, there's not a lot you can do. But if you could fill your store with this fog within 30 seconds or 60 seconds, then they can't see. So I don't know if it'd be a deterrent. It's better than pulling out the guns and starting to be wild, wild west, and
Yeah.
shooting everybody. Um, so, just exploring some of those kinds of things.
Okay.
Camera systems, what's new out there, and they continually get better and cheaper. And now with AI, they can do different types of recognition with them. I don't know. I never have a non-ending list of things that I'm exploring and keeping an eye on and trying to see, is it a good fit or is it a waste of time?
Yeah. Yeah.
I go
Okay.
to different types of trade shows outside the industry to see what's going on, and things.
You're still like a
Uh,
naturally curious kind of guy. You're
very,
like, okay, looking for, okay, keeping your eyes
yeah,
peeled. All right.
yeah.
What out of all of that, I mean, or if you haven't expressed it yet, what's the biggest challenge you're facing at the moment? Like, what is the biggest challenge or bottleneck that you're seeing in in your store or in the business?
A good question. I mean, I could throw a few things out there. I mean, not necessarily a bottleneck. I mean, the gold price, jumping up the way it has in the past several months is, I don't know. I don't want to say
Doesn't
it's a
help.
concern. I mean, I'm curious if it'll stay there. If it'll stay there, then how is that going to affect everything? How is it going to change our business? So usually it's the unknown that bothers me the most,
Yeah.
but you know, currently we're working with a company called ORS, Optimum Retail Solutions, that they're coaching my son to help with training the staff. Because I don't know, if you would ask me that question a year ago, I would say, training my staff. Um, and so I did the discovery, found a company that could really help us, and implemented it. And it's, really changed a lot of stuff for us. I think the biggest bottleneck is my POS system. I mean, it's starting to really aggravate me. But
You're like, why can't this be better?
yeah, I
This
know
isn't 1984. Yeah. You know you're in trouble and they're like, hey, it requires a dot matrix printer. Remember those
that's right.
things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think we've been blessed with amazing growth, and since COVID, we've literally every year since COVID have had our best year ever, and this year is no different. And so the growth has been a challenge from the standpoint of kind of space. Things are starting to get crowded in here. We've had to hire a few extra staff members, and so they're, trying to figure out, well, can we go up? Can we go out the back? I mean, where do we go next?
Hmm. Hmm.
And just keeping, I don't know, looking out the corner of my eye for an opportunity to, find a building, or, where would we go if we had to go somewhere, or could I
Right,
take
right.
over, another space next to me or something? I don't know.
Yeah. What are some of the factors that contributes since COVID to the growth? What did you do to grow the business?
Well, it it's been multiple things. It hasn't been just one thing, and I kind of call it the perfect storm. When COVID hit, several things happened. People couldn't travel, and people, were trying to do home renovations, but all the contractors were taken up, and then they couldn't get material. And so, if you wanted to celebrate a big anniversary or a big birthday, you would do it with a trip or a kitchen remodel or something like that. And, those weren't options. And so they came to jewelry. And so they were buying a ton of jewelry for those types of occasions. The other thing that kind of hit was lab grown diamonds. And so they kind of really came on the scene relatively strong post COVID. And all we saw was that their price drop. And so it made it more and more attainable to the younger generation, to do that. And then we just got more intentional about our marketing and our advertising, and started investing. Since we were growing, I had a little bit extra income coming in that I could dedicate towards marketing. So we started beefing up some of our marketing and our advertising, and and then we also improved the training of the staff, and so it was just an improved inventory management, with the balance to buy, and so just multiple things, all these tiny pieces that when they all come together really make a huge difference for a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
I look back, when I first started, and I was having to do everything. Um, it was me and another person running the whole shebang,
Hmm.
and so you did every position needed. And as we've grown, it's been exciting to grow and be able to let go of some of those responsibilities. I was part of I love getting out and being part of these business mentoring groups or skull groups, or I don't know, there are all kinds of names to them. But I was part of one called the Brain Trust for a season here in Atlanta. And what I liked about it is it was non-jewelry specific. So I was in with all kinds of other types of businesses. And just to hear some of their challenges, some of their ways that they were growing their companies and different things. And we would get a guest speaker in every month to share a topic or an idea. And one of the guys that came in, he was talking about growth, how to grow your business.
Hmm.
And, he listed multiple ways. One way to grow your business is just to raise your prices. That's going to grow your business. And
Pretty simple.
pretty simple. Yeah. But he put it into, I don't know, just simple terms for me. Because sometimes I feel like I'm just a simple guy and it needs to be dumbed down so that I could really grasp my head around it. He goes, if you're at $1 million, you're probably doing everything yourself. He says, if you want to get to 2 million or above, he says, you have to learn to delegate. You have to give up some of these roles and responsibilities that you're doing and give them up. And that was, you know, kind of one of the switches where I turned on and hired me a virtual assistant so I could give up a lot of the garbage stuff that I had to do, the day-to-day things that it took up so much time that I didn't need to be doing. They were teachable and trainable. And so I gave them to her. And then I gave up, because I'm a bench jeweler or third generation goldsmith, I was doing a lot of bench work and it was time. It was time to give it up. And I mean, I'll still go there and do whatever. I'll pinch hit, do anything you need me on the bench. But for the day to day, I'm off the bench, and that was a huge, huge help for me because then instead of working in the business all the time, I could work on the business
Yeah.
and really focus
Yeah.
on ways that we could do to grow it, and encourage and coach the rest of the staff to do their jobs better and things. So I don't know.
So what metrics are you looking to improve or most focus on improving at the moment?
So one of the things that's hard for us to do is to analyze the cost of a repair and the cost of a custom job. And because we do it a lot of it in house, so you got labor involved. Um, theoretically, it should be cut and dry. And if you really just took one thing at a time, you could identify it. You'd almost need every jeweler that touched that, because sometimes a piece of jewelry is touched by 3 different jewelers.
Mm.
So, for example, you'll have my son that does the CAD design. So you got his time. Well, let's back it up even closer. The sales associate greets the customer, and
There's that time.
you got
Yeah.
that time. Then you
Yeah.
have the design time of, coming up with some ideas for that customer. And then you have, once that's been approved, then you have my son doing the design time to design it. And then from there, he prints out the 3D images, the 3D models, and then it goes to one of the jewelers it's called setup and cast, investing in casting. So they'll take that model and turn it into gold. And then that casting has to get cleaned up. Now it goes to the stone setter for the finishing stone setting. Then it has to go back to the appraiser to be appraised. And so you got a lot of steps to it and a lot of
Mm.
labor involved that is hard to track. And we would love to be able to get a better handle on, are we pricing these things accurately?
Mm,
To, I don't want to gouge a customer. I want to have a fair price and a fair profit.
mhm,
And I don't want to lose money. I don't want to, abuse a customer, but I definitely want a fair price for it and a fair
mhm.
profit. But in order to do that, I have to know what my cost is. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that's between the custom work and the repairs that we do. When I get on my phone call with my balance to buy coach, she's like, of all the people she coaches, she goes, "You guys do one of the stores that do the most repairs I've ever seen." And so we do a ton of service work in our community, and so the shop is constantly pumping out repairs, and I just want to make sure that we're being profitable with it. And
Mm, mm,
those are two of my big challenges right now, of how to identify that and how to analyze it and how to document it, so I can see
mm.
it.
You know, we could talk offline, but I do have somebody that might be able to shed some light on that. I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe. I don't know
Yeah,
yet.
sure,
I I don't know it as in depth as you would, but I'm happy to make a connection there. We can
sure,
talk about that when we're done here.
yeah,
But I appreciate you sharing with me that, 'cause it just gives me insight on, like, you know, like I don't know. I'm a consumer, right? Like I'd drop my
yeah,
ring off and be like, fix it.
yeah,
you know, and you're like, okay, now it's got to go. Or I want this thing. Can you please
uh,
design one for me?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then there's all these things that happen behind the scenes in order to even
hmm,
get to that stage. So
yeah,
I can understand wanting to tighten that up and to understand more of as accurately as possible, right? So
yeah,
you can make sure that, you're getting what you're putting in and the customer's
right.
happy.
I mean, one of the other fun things that we've been trying to, I don't know that it's a bottleneck, it is a desire for me, is what I call the bridal journey. From a marketing standpoint of, it could start a variety of ways, but let's say, a young gentleman comes in the door and he's like, "Man, I got a problem." He says, "I'm in love and I got money in my pocket. What do you got to do to help me?" And he wants to get an engagement ring. And so we help him get that engagement ring. But what he doesn't realize is all the next steps that are getting ready to happen. and um, and so ideally, we would love, once he leaves the store with that ring, we've provided him with a lifetime warranty on the ring as long as he comes in every 6 months and has it cleaned and inspected. We're going to give him his first year of insurance on that. But to make some of those things really successful, we need to meet her. We need her to come back into the store and introduce herself to us so that we can gather a little bit of information from her. Because this lifetime warranty that we gave him is all based on him seeing an email that he just got and telling his future wife, "Oh, you need to go to the jewelry store and get that cleaned and inspected." And they never do it, And so then 2 years goes down the road and, heaven forbid, a little diamond falls out and they come on in and, we're like,
You're like, well, you're supposed to have come
and
in.
we get them back, back up to snuff. But
Yeah.
if we could get her back in the door, give her
Okay.
a little, give her a little gift for her engagement, get her name, get her email address. Uh, who knows? Maybe they've already decided on a date of when they would like to get married. Maybe they haven't. But if we could capture that date, then we can start the conversation, because once they've gotten the engagement ring, it's really crazy statistically where somebody buys an engagement ring is not necessarily where they buy their wedding band. And it's like a 50-50 chance that they'll come back to you to get their wedding band. And so if we can help persuade that to get that more up into 80%, that they would come back into the store, that would be great. And
What do you think that would do, if you don't mind me asking, for the business? Would you see what would be mathematically the, you seem to be a
yeah,
number
well,
dude.
that's
What
a
would that
good
look like
question.
for you?
I've never put it on numbers to that. As many numbers as I do. That's a good one to figure out.
Yeah. Here's your assignment for the day. How does that
That's
sound,
right.
Doug?
That's right. There you go.
You're like, man, I talked to Justin. He was just interviewing me, asked me a question, and then he gave me an assignment.
That's
What's in
right. That's right.
school? Yeah. Okay.
But if we can get them back in for the wedding band purchase, and then take a minute to educate the guy that there's also that wedding day gift that you need to get her, and or is there any bridesmaids gifts that we can help you with, or groomsmen's gifts that you might need, and then if we can get a birthday and their birthdays, their anniversaries, then we can begin to clientele them down the road and try to get them back in. Yeah, yeah, and just get that lifetime value and put it all together into what we call a bridal journey, and just implement that.
So where do you see yourself, where do you want to be 6, 12 months from now? What does that look like for you?
I definitely have a goal to see the business continue to grow at a good pace. Not so fast that it's financially draining on us. It's just been a
Hmm.
good, sustainable growth for me that I've been very comfortable with. And very encouraged by. I would love to see my son. He's already, every year I see him blossom more and more and take over more and more responsibility. And I'd love to see him, doing a little bit more, a little bit better with all that kind of stuff. I would love to be traveling just a little bit more, both on the ministry side and also just on business side and fun side. Ministry would be going back to Africa to the vocational school and doing some things there. We've already got a trip to England and to Italy planned for next year. For
Okay.
business,
Nice.
like I'm slated to take a trip to Africa to Sierra Leone for a diamond adventure. And I'm not always excited about going back to India, but because it's not the funnest place to go to, but I truly enjoy what I learn every time I go and who I meet.
Opens your eyes to
Yeah.
different lives and different possibilities. So I have a couple more questions for you, getting a little bit more reflective, if you don't mind me going here with
Hmm.
you, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So, um, if you could wave a metaphorical magic wand and just fix one thing in your business that's holding you back right now from, or that's slowing you down from the growth that you would like to see, what would that be? If that makes any sense.
I mean, when I first came to Atlanta in '82, if I could have started in one place and stayed there the whole time, it would have made a difference. But because I have moved around way too many times, and um, I don't know, different things like that. That have, I look at. There's a couple stores in town that we all started at the same time in the Atlanta area, and they're all doing so much better than me. And it's all because they've stayed in the same spot.
You can pinpoint it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right.
I think they had, the other challenge I think that I had starting was I was a bench guy. I was a bench jeweler, where these other stores that I'm referencing, they were business owners. They
Mm.
and so I had took me a long time to get a new set of eyes and a new uh, thought process from being a bench jeweler to being a retailer and being a businessman instead of being a goldsmith. So those couple of things were really hard. Growing up, I didn't, my dad was a bench guy, and that's all he thought and talked. And he never, their idea of keeping books was just making up some numbers at the end of the year for their accountant, or for the tax return. And, they just always made up numbers and sent them in, just so that they didn't have to pay taxes. They never knew if they were profitable or not. So I never got an education like that. I never went to college. My dad actually told me early on, he goes, I don't want you to be in this industry. He says, I want you to go get a different job completely. Get out of this industry and and stuff. I'm glad I didn't listen to them. I've enjoyed this industry tremendously. I mean, there have been highlights in my life that I just cannot explain by being in this industry. I get to be part of people's lives from the beginning to the end, and then some. You get
Yeah.
to I tell people at the end of the day, all I'm selling is cold metal and hard rocks, but it's always the story behind it, the story of what the customer is celebrating or commemorating with that piece of jewelry, the story of maybe how it was made, or a combination of it both. To be able to take grandma's gold and take a grandchild and help them design something new out of it and repurpose grandma's diamonds, let them watch us melt grandma's ring down and pour it into a new design, fashion it, let us watch us set the diamonds into it and have an heirloom piece that now has meaning to them instead of it just being grandma's ugly piece of jewelry.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
now it's relevant to them and it's got the story behind it and stuff. And they just, I don't know, that just really
What an
gets
honor. I
me.
mean, what an honor it is for you to be a part of that journey. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
how humbling
absolutely.
of a piece of, of a business that, and as I've talked to a few different jewelers, I hear that a lot. It's not the jewelry.
No,
It's
no,
it's
it's not.
it's the meaning behind it. It's the
Hmm.
moments that people cherish,
Yeah,
and that's such an amazing, what a great career you get to have to be alongside
yeah.
people to do that, right?
I had my IT guy came in one day and we helped him get his engagement ring and we let him cast his own ring and everything and he goes, he says, I'm I'm jealous of what you guys got here. He goes, all you get to do is deal with mainly happy people, and happy moments. He says, anytime anybody's calling me, it's because there's a problem. Their computer's down or their server's
Yeah,
not
it's true.
working. And it's
Yeah,
always an emergency
yeah,
and stuff, or a dentist, I'm in pain, got to take my
yeah,
tooth out.
yeah. You chose well, Doug. You chose well.
I'm so happy to be in this business.
Awesome. Well, I have two questions for you. One is one more reflective one, and one is a little bit more fun, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
I appreciate you just spending time with me today. Looking back at your younger self,
Hmm.
what is one piece of business advice you would give to your younger self? Like, what is that?
To learn finances, to understand finances better, the power of interest, both good and bad, what interest can cost you, but what interest can make you, but just learning how to manage and handle money so much better would be a game changer.
Yeah. It's always in hindsight, right? You're like,
Yeah,
should
absolutely.
But, I love asking that question because, somebody who's early on in their journey,
Hmm.
can go, I need to know that. And
Yeah.
that's what I love talking with, you know, people like yourself is because I get to learn myself too. Like, how can I
Hmm.
be better at what I'm doing? So selfishly, but also I'm starting to see patterns between
Hmm.
different entrepreneurs of different
Hmm.
facets, right? Not just
Yeah.
jewelry, but in other industries. And that seems to be another one that keeps popping up. Know
Yeah.
your
I mean,
numbers. Yeah.
I mean, the minute I was able to get the company out of debt and just pay cash for everything, that was one of the other reasons that the company just took off. Get yourself out of debt. It's not easy. You take some time. You got to set the goals. You got to work at it constantly. It's a roller coaster. Some days you're doing good at it. Other days you got a little dip, but just keep working at it and get yourself out of debt. I mean, man, what a difference that makes and the
Wow.
power behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, good advice.
Hmm.
Last question is an easy one
Hmm.
is how do people find you?
Usually their friend tells them.
Good. That's a good one. That's a good start. There you
The
go.
other way they find us is thankfully to Google reviews.
All right.
Our customers rant and rave about us, and we have a very high rating on Google
You
reviews.
do. I think you have like 5 stars and you're like 300 and something reviews, or maybe even 500 if I saw correctly.
I think it's 875 or 876.
800. Yes. I knew it was up there. Yes, you corrected me. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah,
So
but
that's a true testament
yeah.
to
I mean,
you and your company. Yeah.
we actually last year we got voted best of Atlanta for the jewelry um, category, and we're um, in the finalist again this year. They'll be announcing that mid-November, and we hope to win again. But
Fingers crossed. Fingers
yeah,
crossed.
but I mean, daviddouglas.com. I mean, I've had my URL since day one, practically, since the internet was invented.
There you go.
But so that's probably the easiest and best way is just to go to daviddouglas.com and all the information's there, you know?
All right. Well, I'll make sure I put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you send me a link to your, if you have a link to your nonprofit,
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be happy to
For
put
sure.
that in there too. If somebody wants to check you out and support you that way,
Yeah.
or some information about how to get a hold of you on that too, because I
Yeah.
want to be able to support that if that's
I appreciate it.
uh, an offer. Um, Doug, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really do
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's been really fun.
Well, thank you, Justin. And it's been an honor and privilege. And I just have enjoyed chatting with you here.
Likewise. So, all right, everybody, that wraps up today's episode on the Rise Up podcast. Thank you, Doug Meadows from David Douglas Jewelry dot or Diamonds and Jewelry. Woo! I got that out. It's been a long day. I appreciate it. So yeah, that's wraps up today's episode. Thank you guys for listening, checking us out. Make sure you check out daviddouglas.com and check him out if you're in the Atlanta area. He'd love to probably show you some of his beautiful jewelry he has in his store. So that wraps up today, and everyone have a great one, and we'll see you in the next episode.